So the name of this is The Hammer. I don't often tell this story. In fact, I haven't told it in a long time. But I felt like this forum, this group of people, was a safe place, and it was a great opportunity for me to get my thoughts together about it. I may get emotional telling the story, and so you need to bear with me. I don't really expect you to sympathize with me, but I'd like you to understand what I did and why I did it. It's a true story. It's a story about love, a blinding love that eventually causes pain and heartache, and it ends tragically. I don't know where you were on May 25th, 1985. I was at an awards banquet with my wife at the time, and 40 other women, all of college age. You see, I was a rowing coach, and I was the head women's rowing coach at Princeton University. We just had an extremely successful year, and we were celebrating our success. You know, there are a lot of temptations out there for a man, and I always thought that I was stronger than that, but this night proved me different. The captains were up, ready to present me with my year-end gift, and typically it's a tie or a sweater or a plaque. But they were explaining what an exceptional year this was, and they felt like maybe it needed to be an exceptional gift. So the two captains reached down and they pull up this box and put it on the table. They open the flap, and she walks right out on the table. Unafraid, unscared, fearless, like she owned the place. The most beautiful 25-pound baby pig I've ever seen in my life. A Yorkshire pig, to be exact. She looked at me. My heart leapt. My wife, she could feel it. She knew. Our relationship was in jeopardy. It was just about that moment my wife yelled out, "Oh, you shouldn't have." And the girls came back and said, No, we're more than glad to do it. She says, "No, I mean, you shouldn't have. I don't want a damn pig in my house." So you have to understand that I'd spent the last 5-6 years trying to raise animals, none of it very successfully, and my wife had to suffer through all of it. But I was clear this was different. The girls had named the pig Hammer, and so Hammer, it stuck. So we put Hammer back in the box. I smoothed things over with my wife and the team. We drove home. I tried to explain to my wife that my reaction was due to the wine, but we got home, left the pig, and we had a truck. We left the pig in the truck, and we went to bed. She fell asleep, but how could I fall asleep knowing that beautiful animal was sitting down there? Next morning when I woke up, I go down trying to convince myself that it was an odd moment. It really wasn't true. This was just another animal, and we were going to get on with raising this animal. But I took the box out, I opened it up, she walked out, our eyes met like a lightning bolt. We both felt it. It was a beautiful May day, so I took her out, I cleaned her up, I put her out in the yard, laid down in the grass, and I was just infatuated with watching her root around on the grass, tearing up little pieces here. Eventually my wife comes out. She says, "Look, you know, I've had a change of heart. I'm going to open the door to my heart for this animal. I know that we can coexist and have a happy family." So I was happy. But then she made a major mistake. She laid down very close to me. As soon as she did, Hammer raised her head, and after a moment of contemplation, she trots over, comes right in between us, and with her little snout, she pushes my wife away and comes and lays on my chest.
Oh my!
The next sound that I heard was that door slamming shut in my wife's heart. Put on top of all of this, I had a Cocker Spaniel, Peanut. And she and I did everything together. We ran together, we went to work together, we were in the motorboat together, and she was everything. And my biggest dream was to have Hammer and Peanut be fast friends, and that they would love each other. I could not have been more disappointed. Peanut wouldn't even look at the animal, and she went into a deep depression. So clearly I created this rift in the family. But I loved Hammer deeply. And of course, I knew nothing about raising pigs. I didn't even know what you fed them. So, there was no Google at the time. You couldn't search around for this. So I asked a few people, and you come to find out that Purina not only makes breakfast cereal and puppy chow and cat chow, they make pig chow. So I bought bags and bags and bags of pig chow. And then the subject came of where Hammer was going to live, and Hammer and I were thinking about possibly the house, but with a very short conversation with my wife, that ended, and we had a field with all fenced in, left over from my previous animals, so I put Hammer out into the field, and for the next 3 months, she was nothing more than a delight. She was perfectly clean. She pooped in the far corner. There was a stream. She laid in the stream most of the day. She had a little pen she stayed in on hay. She was awesome. But by the end of the summer, our romance was starting to show cracks. First and foremost, she was now 200 pounds. She was so strong that when she leaned against the fence just collapsed, and I ended up having to electrify the fence. The trouble with that was when the storm came, it knocked out the electricity. And if I was at work, storm came in, I knew that I would find Hammer where she thought she should be. She had the ability to get out, open the door, go into our house. She'd be on the carpet in front of the fireplace, wanting to know what dinner was going to be. So that created some issues. We would go on walks, and our pig cannot see very well, but it can hear perfectly. And she would follow my voice wherever. And we were deep in the woods, and we came on this massive oak tree, and there were acorns everywhere. And it was like a kid in a candy. She was eating these acorns, and it was a pleasure to see. She was smiling, just eating these things like crazy. But eventually the day got long, and I said, okay, it's time to go, Hammer, let's hit the road. And then that's when I realized that I was just making suggestions. That her 200 pounds meant a lot. Well, eventually I got her back home, but I realized that was most likely the inflection point in our relationship. For Hammer, eating became number one, and I became number two. The next 3 months were a real ordeal. She went from eating twice to 3 times her normal amount. By October, she was 400 pounds. I did a little research to find out that Yorkshire pigs could be 1,200 pounds. I could ride her at 400 pounds. And then there were her famous breakouts when she would break through the fence, and she would go on rage to our neighbor's house, eat our dog's food, and almost kill the dog over there. Getting her back would take me 2 hours to get her back in the pen. Finally, my wife brought reality to the situation. She said, okay, you want to be a farmer, you know what comes next. So one fateful day, I put her in a trailer, took a ride over to Pennsylvania. 2 weeks later, I drove back to pick her up. That drive back, I was in a fog. I was lost, I could hardly keep consciousness. I walked into the building, gentleman came out, said, I've got her in the back here. I walked through, he pointed to a table. He said, there it is, 2 racks of ribs, 2 hams, 2 Boston butts, 8 pounds of bacon, 4 pounds of scrapple, all of it neatly wrapped up in paper. He put it all in a bag, helped me get it in the car. Driving home, to say I was lost would be an understatement. The guilt, could I ever eat this meat? Could I ever eat meat again? Finally, I got home. My wife was waiting for me at the porch because she knew I'd be a mess. I grabbed 2 bags, went up on the porch, put them down. She gave me a hug, and that hug was the only thing that Peanut needed. The last 2 weeks, that Cocker Spaniel had recovered with the pig not being there. But with that hug, she was able to dash up, grab a ham steak, boom, out to the porch, and in a complete act of revenge, she sat out there munching on this. And at that moment, it brought some reality back to me, and it made me realize that life has responsibilities. And for the last 6 months, the 2 women that love me the most, I had ignored my responsibility to my wife and my Cocker Spaniel. As much as I loved Hammer, she had been called out of a litter, not for breeding, and the minute I took her control of her, I was responsible for her life and to shepherd her to her end. Hopefully I did it with love. The final note is when I walked out there to take the ham steak away from Peanut, and I reached down and it was all uncovered. It was smoked ham. I thought to myself, my, that looks tasty. So, a little bit long, but